The FBI and the Secret Portal to Another World. Written and performed by Tony Capobianco. Reports of a witch had caught the eye of the Moon Mist Division. Several witnesses had claimed to have seen a woman dressed like a witch hovering through the woods. Special agents Lydia Marsh and Kono Castabello were sent to Ulster County, New York to investigate. A year had passed since the two agents had met following the terrible events of the massacre at the Coffin Falls police station. Since then, Agent Castabello had been studying and training in the ways of the Kaibo. As the two agents arrived to the forest where a witch had allegedly been sighted, they took note of the fog. A strange fog which seemed to glow covered the forest. The agents were well aware of the fact that the appearance of a bizarre fog often coincided with reports of the supernatural. The agents had encountered this ominous fog in places where vampires or some other supernatural being had settled down or nested for an extended period of time. The ethereal fog seemed to have grown denser as Agents Marsh and Castabello entered deeper into the woods. Agent Castabello pointed toward a tree branch and said, "Hey, take a look at this." While attentively observing the peculiar handcrafted objects made of sticks dangling from a tree branch, Agent Marsh said, "Yes, very interesting. This is the work of a witch. She's been very busy. These fluchwatten are dangling from many of these trees." Fluchwatten are handcrafted objects that have had a curse or a hex placed on them. Witches often shape these objects into pentagrams or various occult symbols. The effect of the fluchwatten depends on the type of spell cast upon it. Sometimes the witch will use these hexed items for defensive purposes. Other times they are used to attract potential victims to the area. They are commonly used to instill fear. Agent Castabello knelt to the ground as he discovered what appeared to be a crude altar surrounded by various animal bones. As he used a stick to investigate, he said, "We're close. This is definitely a dark altar. It looks like some of these sacrifices were made recently. The witch isn't far." Agent Marsh took off her backpack, opened it up, and took out steel shackles. Engraved symbols covered the shackles. These special symbols gave the shackles the power to bind a witch and prevent her from using magic. The tricky part, however, was getting the shackles on the witch and safely securing her. Cackling was heard in the distance. Agents Kono Castabello and Lydia Marsh stood back to back. The fog made it difficult to see further than 10 yards. A foul wind began to blow. The fog took on a greenish glow. Emerging from the greenish fog, the witch had arrived. The witch was floating in the fog. It was a chilling sight. She didn't appear to be old or ugly. On the contrary, she looked young and beautiful. As the witch began to say a spell, she started to choke. Agent Castabello was extending his right arm toward her as he closed his hand into a fist. He was using a telekinesis skill that he had learned. He was squeezing her throat from a safe distance. Agent Castabello continued to choke her as he used his Kaibo abilities to bring her to the ground. Once brought to the ground, Agent Marsh ran over and bound the witch in the witch-proof shackles. With the witch safely restrained by the shackles, Agent Castabello stopped using the Kaibo choke power. The witch gasped for air. After she had caught her breath, her eyes grew wide and her mouth was agape. She was confused and in complete shock. Looking at Agent Castabello, the witch said, "What is the meaning of this? How do you have the Kaibo choke power? I have heard that the Kaibo have been dead for many centuries." Raising his eyebrows, Agent Castabello answered, "Well, lady, you heard wrong. Didn't anyone ever tell you not to believe everything that you hear? The rumors of the final demise of the Kaibo are greatly exaggerated." The two agents escorted the witch to their car and they then drove back to Moon Mist headquarters. This top secret government facility is located in the Hudson Valley. Hidden deep in a forest that was marked as private property, the facility went unnoticed. The appearance of the property was unremarkable. It simply looked like a large forest with a medium-sized cabin located at the center of the property. It certainly didn't look like an FBI office, much less the headquarters of a top-secret division of the Bureau. However, looks can be deceiving. The cabin in the woods even seemed to be quite ordinary on the inside. Everything about the cabin was as you would expect, until you went into the basement and accessed a secret elevator. The elevator was hidden in a secret passage. In order to access the elevator, a retina scan was required. The elevator went down 31 feet below the house. 31 feet below the seemingly ordinary cabin in the woods was the location of Moon Mist headquarters. The underground facility was large and well-staffed. The security was state-of-the-art and it was heavily fortified. An elite security team recruited from the Special Forces of the United States military regarding the facility. This security team was given the name Mist Force. The reason for the formation of Mist Force and the strange location of Moon Mist is the same. 31 feet below the ground was where a strange, shimmering orange and green light had been discovered. It was a portal to another world. The FBI had learned that vampires, witches, malevolent inhuman spirits, and other dangerous creatures had been entering into our world through this mysterious portal. The creatures had been passing through the portal and climbing up through a tunnel to the surface. After the FBI had confirmed this, the U.S. government quietly built Moon Mist headquarters around it. The secret portal to another world was located at the center of the underground facility. Steel and concrete walls were erected around the portal, and a bulletproof glass enclosure was erected inside of that outer barrier. The fortified glass enclosure was intended to provide a measure of safety for observational purposes. Although monstrous creatures from another world had been able to come and go through the portal and pass between worlds, no man had been able to do the same. The greatest minds hadn't been able to find a way to get a drone through the portal. Moon Mist had to figure out a way to break through the portal. They needed to see what was on the other side. Beating an enemy is heavily reliant upon gathering intelligence. They also figured that if they could learn the secrets of how the portal works, then maybe they'd be able to close it down. It was for these reasons that the FBI sent out agents Kono Castabello and Lydia Marsh to capture and bring back a witch. The witch was brought into the Moon Mist facility and secured in a room by agents Castabello and Marsh. The security of the residents of the Hudson Valley, and possibly of the entire planet, hinged upon what would happen next. The interrogation was about to begin. The enchanted shackles remained on the witch as she walked around in a padded room with a two-way mirror. Agent Marsh entered the interrogation room first. Agent Marsh sat down and said, "I'm Lydia. I can help you. You have a choice. You can answer a few questions, and I can give you access to a portal to take you back to your world, or you can refuse to cooperate and rot in a prison cell." The witch grinned and said, "Why would I trust you?" Lydia answered, "We could have killed you rather than bring you here. We could have made you very uncomfortable on your trip here, but instead we've treated you more humanely than you probably deserved." The witch looked at her shackles and said, "You call these barbaric chains hospitality? You only kept me alive because you want me for something. What's to stop you from killing me after you get the answers that you need? What's to come of me once I'm no longer of use to you?" Lydia smiled and said, "Those are wise and fair questions. Honor and human decency are the reasons that we won't betray an arrangement with you. That is, as long as you honor your side of the deal, then we'll honor our side of the bargain. I understand that witches enjoy making bargains." The witch squinted her eyes and responded, "Yes, we do love a good bargain. I suppose that it wouldn't hurt to hear you out. What kind of answers do you want?" Lydia folded her hands together and asked, "How did you get through the portal? Why won't the portal allow us through it? What can we do to open the portal?" The pretty witch tapped her fingers against the table and said, "Are you crazy? If the rulers of my world learned that I taught you how to cross over between dimensions at will, they'd ensure that I'd receive a fate worse than death." Lydia softly bit her lip and said, "No one has to know that you helped us. We'll keep it a secret. You can have your freedom in the place that you belong." The witch leaned forward and replied, "They will know. They always find things out. They have eyes and ears all over the place. As for my freedom, why do you think that I came here? I wanted to be free from the tyranny of the ruler of my world. I came here and I've harmed no one. I might have offered a few animal sacrifices as part of my religious practice, and I might have seduced a few young men, but I haven't hurt anyone." Lydia raised her eyebrows and said, "That's very interesting. If what you say is true, why did you scare the people that you encountered in the woods? Why did you try to attack my partner and I today?" The witch smirked and answered, "Is it a crime to play a trick on someone? Can a girl have some fun? I didn't hurt anyone, and I didn't intend to kill you or your handsome partner. I was simply trying to have a laugh and scare you away." Lydia got up out of her chair and said, "If you don't want to help us, and if you really don't want to go back home, then I think we're done here." Agent Kono Castabello entered the room, sat down, and said, "Hello, my name's Kono. What's your name?" The witch smiled as her eyes grew large and answered, "Hi, Kono. My name's Annabelle. You really are charming, even when you aren't Kaibo choking me." Kono briefly brushed his right hand through his hair and replied, "Oh, that. Yes, it was a necessary precaution. People with your abilities can be very dangerous. In fact, we hadn't previously met anyone or anything friendly from your world. I'm sure that you understand." Annabelle twirled her long blonde hair with her left hand and said, "Let me tell you something, dearie. There are a lot of bad beings in my world, but not everyone is evil. Many people, such as myself, are oppressed. Those of us who don't hurt other creatures unnecessarily and don't try to gain power at all costs are treated like pawns to be played with. We are social outcasts. Some of us, who are not evil, have escaped through an interdimensional portal and lived quiet lives here in your world. People like that wouldn't have drawn your attention." Kono inhaled deeply and replied, "There are others like you? Are there a lot of beings from your world who don't like the ruler?" Annabelle answered, "Oh yes, there are many who, like me, desire to be free." Kono leaned toward Annabelle and said, "Why don't you fight back? Why don't you join forces and fight for freedom?" Annabelle sighed as her brown eyes appeared sad and answered, "Because the Dark Emperor is too powerful. He has ruled for thousands of years. The Dark Master has easily crushed every uprising. He doesn't only torture and kill those involved in threatening his power, but he also wipes out the neutral family members, along with their entire villages. He is pure, unadulterated evil. I believe that in your world, you would call him the devil incarnate. Kono's eyes grew wide as he gently placed his right hand on Annabelle's folded hands. He then said, "That is truly terrible. I'm very sorry to hear that. It sounds like you and I are on the same side. I think that we might be able to work together. Let me get back to you in a little bit. It's been nice to properly meet you, Annabelle. Oh, and I really am sorry for the way our first introduction went down earlier this afternoon." Agent Kono Castabello had gotten out of his chair and left the room to go consult with Director Michael Glover. Standing 6 feet 5 inches tall with a muscular frame, Michael Glover was an imposing figure. The director of the Moon Mist Division was African American. The short, cropped haircut that he wore contributed toward revealing his lively facial expressions. The interview with Annabelle the Witch had yielded productive and unexpected results. Agent Castabello tried to persuade Director Glover to offer Annabelle and her family asylum on Earth in exchange for teaching the agents how to gain passage through the portal. Castabello further argued that Annabelle could be a priceless asset and potential ally. Her knowledge of the alien world on the other side of the portal could offer them the kind of intelligence that they had long desired. More than this, Castabello saw the possibility of forming an alliance with the oppressed and exploited beings in the monster dimension. Director Glover cautiously agreed with Agent Castabello's view. The director was willing to offer Annabelle and her family trans-world asylum, provided that she cooperated with Moon Mist Division. Upon hearing the details of the deal being offered, Annabelle accepted. October 31st, 2022 was the historic day that Moon Mist Division sent a small team through the portal. The team was given 2 objectives to complete. The first objective was reconnaissance. The Moon Mist team was commissioned to stealthily obtain information about the land, its inhabitants, towns, and about the rulers of the realm. The second objective was to locate and bring back Annabelle's mother and sister. The small Moon Mist force was comprised of agents Castabello, Marsh, Stryker, Che, and Annabelle the Witch. Annabelle revealed the mystical words which briefly opened the portal. When the words Yayo, Vukvar, Verelden were spoken, the portal could be crossed. Passage through the interdimensional portal remained possible for 31 seconds after the mystical words were spoken. Agent Lydia Marsh led the way as the Moon Mist team bravely went through the portal. Passing through the portal resulted in feeling butterflies in the stomach and a sensation similar to static electricity throughout the body. It took a mere 3 seconds to pass from one side of the portal to another. Once through the gate to another world, the travelers felt what they dubbed the portal rush. The rush was attributed to the body's release of endorphins. Once through the portal, the Moon Mist team found themselves in a dark cave. Only a faint reddish light emanating from the mouth of the cave kept them from being totally enshrouded by darkness. As they cautiously moved toward the red light, they came to the mouth of the cave. A brilliant waterfall flowed down into a lake. The cave was hidden behind the waterfall. The red light had been caused by a red sun. Filtered by the waterfall, the red rays of the sun entered the cave. Annabelle led the team out of the cave and around the ferocious waterfall as they walked over a rocky ledge. Unlike the blue sky of Earth, the sky here was crimson. The horizon was as a candle dipped in blood. Cotton candy-like clouds floated low on the horizon. The color of these clouds varied from gray to black to orange to green. The skyline was truly remarkable. Agents Castabello, Marsh, Stryker, and Che explained it as a terribly beautiful and ominous sight. The sun, clouds, and sky weren't the only remarkable things. As the Moon Mist team traveled over the rocky ridge, they noticed that they felt lighter and that they could jump higher. Gravity was apparently considerably weaker here. Perhaps this played a role in the size of the living things here in this strange world. Some of the trees and creatures were enormous. The team was amazed by the gargantuan size of some of the trees that they saw. Both remarkably wide and tall, these trees made the visitors from Earth feel small. The spectacular display of the foliage was breathtakingly beautiful. Both the hulking trees and the small trees were adorned with leaves colored in various shades of red, yellow, and orange. This display wasn't seasonal. The leaves appeared like this all year round. Much like vampires, the foliage seemed to remain in an eternal living dead state. This world contained an untold number of mysteries. The team, on the Council of Annabelle, were dressed in gray and black hooded robes. This was the usual attire here, and the team needed to blend in. As the agents headed into a forest, they noted the strange glowing fog. Just as they had routinely encountered on Earth in places where supernatural creatures nested, the fog here glowed with white, orange, and green hues. Yet again, they found that the things of this mysterious world produced a sense of both beauty and terror. Walking through the forest, Annabelle turned to Agent Castabello and said, "Kono, remember what I told you. Do not use your Kaibo powers unless absolutely necessary. If you do have to use them to take out an enemy aggressor, you must kill them and make sure that there are no witnesses. If word got out that the Kaibo are not extinct and that one of them is here in the hallowed Nok Drakun realm, then our plans would be for naught. No creature here can know about us. We have to be stealthy, have a quick look from a safe distance, get my mother and sister, and get out of here. If we fail, if we are discovered, then the Dark Emperor will not allow us to leave, and he will accelerate his plans of the conquest of Earth. Trust me when I tell you that your world is not ready for that." Agent Castabello placed his right hand on Annabelle's shoulder and said, "I understand. If we follow your instructions, then we have a chance to go unnoticed and pull this mission off. We don't want the Dark Emperor to place security guards around the portal. So long as he doesn't know that we have learned how to cross over between worlds, then he will continue to believe that we are in the dark and pose no threat to him here." Walking through the forest, the group came across a 40-yard web with a 10-foot-long spider at the center. The spider was black, with red markings in the shape of a human skull on the back of its abdomen. If it was nighttime, they might have walked right into the web. Even in the daytime, the fog made it difficult to spot the gigantic spider web. They carefully walked around the perilous trap and moved on. Annabelle's family lived nearby in the small village of Bats Grove. Agents Castabello, Marsh, Stryker, and Che would stay behind near the edge of the woods, while Annabelle would go to the village alone. The homes of Bats Grove were quaint and looked as though they came out of a fairy tale. This world, however, was no happy fairy tale. It was a realm of living nightmares. About 30 minutes after Annabelle had gone to meet her mother and sister, screams were heard. Voices crying out in pain arose from the village. Alerted by the screeching, the agents looked on. Several vampires were terrorizing some of the villagers of Bats Grove. 2 male vampires restrained 2 green-skinned men. The third vampire, a female with red hair, assaulted a mother and daughter. She toyed with them as a cat toys with a pair of mice. The agents began to move forward until Castabello assertively but silently signaled them to stop and remain still. Castabello was fighting off the burning desire to intervene and stop this disgusting assault. Every fiber of his being burned with a fire that could only be put out by justice. He felt as though he was being eaten alive from the inside as his conscience, emotions, and reason waged war with each other. He knew that intervening would jeopardize not only their mission, but possibly the fate of Earth. They were under strict orders to watch and remain out of sight. They were not supposed to engage anyone unless they were attacked. With eyes ablaze, Agent Marsh looked at Agent Castabello with an expression of anger, sorrow, and powerlessness. The screams ceased. The female vampire had fed upon and drained the life out of the mother and daughter. The two male vampires had fed upon and killed the two men. The green-skinned, lifeless bodies of a father, an uncle, a mother, and a daughter littered the dirt road in front of the village. The vile vampires laughed and then flew away. Agent Castabello fell to his knees and grasped his head with his hands. An hour after the atrocious murders, Annabelle emerged through the glimmering fog with her mother and sister. Annabelle's mother was very pretty. She had a mixture of blonde and white hair. Her eyes squinted as the skin on her face tightened. Annabelle's sister followed closely behind their mother. She was a brunette whose features looked similar to her older sister, although shorter in stature. Once they all met up at the forest's edge, they immediately went deeper into the woods. There was no time for introductions. They had to get out of there without drawing attention. Now that it was nighttime, the risk of encountering a vampire, a ghoul, a skeleton soldier, or a wicked witch had greatly increased. The realm of Nok Drakun was filled with dangers. The nighttime sky held a large orange moon. It provided enough light for them to travel without using night vision goggles. The infrared goggles weren't a technology that was known of in this alien world. If anyone saw them wearing them, they would stand out and questions would arise. Raising his right arm, with the palm of his hand open, Castabello said, "Hold up. Did you hear that? I think we're being followed." Agent Stryker replied, "Yeah, I heard someone or something rustling in the distance. I hope it's just a harmless animal." A loud roar broke the silence. Agent Che went crashing into a massive tree. A warlock had cast a spell and conjured a powerful but focused wind and directed it at Agent Che. The agents spread out and took cover behind the huge trees. Annabelle, along with her mother and sister, joined hands and stepped forward and said, "You are outnumbered." Stepping closer, the warlock, dressed in a black and red hooded robe, answered, "Maybe so, but you are outpowered." Two large green-skinned trolls roared as they emerged from the fog. Each troll stood over 8 feet tall. The hulking beasts rushed towards the witches. As the witches began to say a spell against the trolls, they were blasted backward by the warlock. Agents Castabello, Marsh, and Stryker charged the trolls with the staffs that Annabelle had given them. They couldn't use guns because doing so would give away their true origins. One troll clobbered Agent Stryker before he could even get a hit in. The powerful blow from the troll sent him flying through the air. Agent Marsh looked at Castabello and said, "Follow me!" Castabello followed Marsh as she ran through the forest. The two trolls rampaged after them. The warlock watched on, laughed, and bellowed, "Cowards! You're no match for me! The trolls knocked over small trees and bushes as they charged after Castabello and Marsh. Loud thuds rang out each time the feet of the trolls hit the ground. It sounded like dinosaurs were crashing through the woods. What chance did the agents stand if they couldn't use firearms, and if Castabello couldn't use his Kai-Bo powers? Certainly they would need a more powerful weapon than a wooden walking staff. These trolls were enormous. Faster and faster, Marsh and Castabello ran. It seemed to be of no use. The trolls were only a step or two behind them. The trolls were about to rip them apart limb from limb, when suddenly Marsh cut to her left and said, "Dive to your left, now!" The trolls were suddenly stuck in place. They had run right into a massive spider web. The gargantuan spider descended and bit the first troll. Then it bit the second troll. Each bite delivered a large and lethal dose of poison. The trolls were dead within minutes. The black spider with the red mark of a human skull on its abdomen then wrapped the trolls up so it could feed on them at its leisure. Annabelle and her family had risen to their feet and set their focus on the warlock. With their hands joined, they cast a spell that entombed the warlock in ice. The witches then said another spell, which shattered the warlock into thousands of tiny pieces. On this particular day, the Moon Mist team was fortunate. Agents Stryker and Che had only been knocked unconscious. They hadn't used any technology from Earth, and Castabello hadn't used his Kai-Bo powers. Not only did they survive and kill the warlock and his trolls, but they did so without drawing the attention of the Dark Emperor. The first mission to the Dark Realm of Nok Drakun had been a success. At last, they had learned how to gain access to the mystical portal to another world. Additionally, the adventure had permitted them to map out some of the strange new world and to retrieve Annabelle's family. No longer would they be forced to always fight defensively. It was now possible for them to carefully plan on returning to what they dubbed the Halloween dimension. Soon, they could take the fight to the dark powers that threaten humanity. I hope that you enjoyed your stay here at the Haunted Half Moon Inn. The Master requests that you consider supporting me and the inn by becoming a a patron of mine on Patreon. The Half Moon Inn needs your support to keep the doors open. You wouldn't want the residents here to feel forgotten and abandoned, would you? Creating quality scary stories to share with you is very important to me. Running this inn of horror is a passion of mine, and I would truly appreciate your support. The world is hurting. It needs more horror. Help me to heal the world through horror. Together, with your help, we could haunt this world one home at a time. Until next time, always remember, just because you don't see them doesn't mean that they aren't there.